Joining me now is mother of the man serving time in prison for mishandling classified information, Kathleen Saucier. Kathleen, thanks for being here.
Oh, Liz, thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to speak out about the double standards.
All right, Kathleen, let me ask you pretty specifically. Right now, your son is serving time in prison for taking photographs of classified information on a submarine. That I think we can both agree is wrong. But the double standard part that you just mentioned, why do you think that your son is in prison for mishandling classified information, but Hillary Clinton is not?
Well, I think you mentioned it in the lead-in. You know, it's obvious to me what I've seen over and over these past few months that there's the double standard for those that are connected, that financially can afford. I mean, we exhausted all our financial resources, and we just could not compete against the prosecution and our taxpayer dollars at work. And so we were defeated in that way, and my son had no option but to take a plea. And that's what happened for us. I also think there's the part about being connected. You know, there's a double standard not just for Hillary Clinton, but so many others in this present administration that over and over break the very same rules that regular patriots like myself and you do, and we are imprisoned for that. What happened to my son is wrong. He accepted responsibility for his actions. As Hillary Clinton said in two of the debates, she said, "I made a mistake, oops." She didn't say the oops part, but I added that on. But,
right.
You know, basically she made a mistake and she runs for president of the United States. My son admits he made a mistake taking 6 photos in a classified area at the lowest level of classification in 2009 when he was only 22 years old, and he's sitting in prison.
Right. And I think it does. It demonstrates that there's 2 tiers, I believe, to our justice system. One that applies to the elites, the politicians who have connections and money, and then one to the everyday people. And that's a scary thing to me, Kathleen, because that's the beginning of tyranny. But I want to give you an opportunity here to look into the camera. And if Hillary Clinton were sitting in front of you, after all that's happened to you, all that's happened to your son, what would you say to Hillary Clinton?
Oh, I would say to her, you know, I'm screaming about this double standard. I feel there's absolutely no reason that she shouldn't be held to the same standard as every other patriot, every other American in the United States, and that if she gets to walk free for what's mishandling classified information at much higher levels than my son, then someone needs to review my son's case. And in fact, we've had an attorney sign on pro bono to go through. We're going to request a presidential pardon because we feel that what happens to my son is completely unacceptable compared to the standard. He accepted responsibility. There's other things that could have happened differently than they did, and so we're going to pursue that. We set up a page, American Patriots Against Double Standards, and that's our Facebook page. We ask anyone that's interested in supporting. It's not just about my son, as I mentioned. It's about every other patriotic American. And as you said, the tyranny, you know, if they're held to a different level than we are, if government has that type of ability to take our lives over, we need to be cautious and we need to stand up and start speaking out, not just about my son, but about every other person that's
right,
sitting in prison.
Because if there's the opportunity, or if there's the evidence of abuse here, then there's the opportunity of abuse for everyone else. Kathleen, in your personal opinion, what should happen to Hillary Clinton? Do you think she should be in jail?
Well, what I can say is that I believe that our country needs to come together and unite. We have 2 very different sides of people. We have a new president of our United States coming on board, and we need to stand by him and support him so that we can make the changes in our country that we need to make so that every patriotic American is held to the same standard. Do I think she needs to be in prison? My mom's side of me says yes. If my son's sitting in prison, she needs to be there too, and for a lot longer because of her levels of classification and the amount of things that she's done. But I also feel, as a patriotic American, we need to unite, we need to step up, and if that means whatever has to happen for her to be able to go forward and us to be able to go forward and her supporters to go forward, then we need to do that.
Right, and your son, I believe, tried to use the so-called Hillary defense in defending himself from these charges. But what was the reaction to that in court?
Actually, it was laughed at by the prosecution, and that was well before Hillary Clinton went through the election. We went through the election process, and I know that just this week there was another Marine that their attorney used that same defense, and he was actually cleared of all charges. So we're very hopeful that we're going to go back and put in, you know, what we need to in the pardon to include that attorney was successful in that defense. When my son's case went forward and when we went forward with that, it was well before so many other things have come out in the WikiLeaks and everything else to show the high level of criminal acts that Hillary Clinton and her staff have been, what I believe, guilty of, although they've not been proven guilty. So I think, we were at a different point in the state of that investigation, where now, unfortunately, my son sits in prison and we have to fight for the presidential pardon.
Right. Because I think at the point that your son was convicted, there was evidence that he had destroyed his laptop, destroyed his memory card in order to cover up what he did. And that was the intent. That was the intent that the prosecutor was looking for. And at the time, we did not know that Hillary Clinton used bleach bit and hammers to destroy her server and her cell phones. In my opinion, at least, that is not greatly different. They both had the intent to destroy that. But Kathleen, we're almost out of time. Let me go back to something that you said before. Donald Trump's team says they may not appoint a special prosecutor to investigate Hillary Clinton for the Clinton Foundation or for her mishandling of classified information on her private email server. Is there anything that you would want to say to Donald Trump about that?
Well, I want to correct one thing because I know we don't have much time. So what I need you to know is that my son was not, the charges that he pled guilty to were mishandling classified information, not the destruction of evidence. And the judge very clearly stated in sentencing, he felt my son had no intent whatsoever. And so I think that's important to clarify, whereas it seems to be quite intentional on the part of Hillary Clinton. So what I would say to Donald Trump is that if that's not going to happen to Hillary Clinton and her staff, I would ask that he review my son's case and consider a full presidential pardon, as well as reinstatement in his military and allowing him the medical discharge that he was set to go forward with, so that he doesn't lose all his military benefits for the 11 years that he served our country, proudly served our country.
Right, and in fact, if intent was not considered in your son's case, if the judge says that he didn't factor intent in, that actually makes the double standard more stark between what James Comey said about Hillary Clinton and your son's case.